back to the Maelstrom, ladies and gentlemen. We have more Shadow War Armageddon for you today. Today, the forces of the Necrons will be making their return. They will be facing off against Tzeentchian Cultists. They will be represented by Astra Militarum rules. They will be fighting over the sprawl in a basic gunfight. They've run into one another in our fighting. Armin has sent some of his Tzeentchian scum into the city, and the Necrons are going to make an attempt to drive them back. This is the table. The Tzeentchian Cultists will be on the opposite board edge and will be deploying first, and the Necrons will deploy in response along this edge with the fountain. So that's the table. We will be right back with the kill teams. Alright, first up we've got the kill teams beginning with the Tzeentchian Cultists.
So my veteran sergeant leading the kill team has a chainsword, a plasma pistol, and carapace armor. And he is backed up by 4 veteran guardsmen with las guns and 2 special weapons operatives armed with carapace armor and grenade launchers with frag and crack grenades.
Alrighty, so that is the Thousand Suns representation. Next up we have the Necron kill team. It has not changed since our last battle report. We have 3 warriors with Gauss flares, 2 immortals with Gauss blasters, and then the leader is an appointed immortal with a Gauss blaster and a photo visor. So fairly straightforward, as Necrons are wont to be. You have seen the kill teams and you have seen the table. The attack on the sprawl begins now. Deployment is complete. The cultists have deployed here in the corner around the barrels of Promethium. In response to that, the Necron team went for a clustered approach as well to face off with them as they come through the gap. So that is initial deployment. We're going to dice off to see who goes first. With a 5, the Necrons will have the first turn. We will be right back following that. Necron turn 1 rolled in fairly quickly. Everybody made a run move forward in an attempt to begin to get into grips here for this engagement. We will be right back once the Imperial Guard have responded. Guard have responded to Necron aggression with run moves of their own, attempting to hug cover as well as they can. So Necrons will be back as we begin the next turn. Necrons have ended their turn. 3 men stayed on Overwatch, the 2 basic immortals and the 3rd warrior here. The team lead and 2 of the warriors moved up, fired through the gap, were able to pin this guy, but no damage. Gauss did not help me there. He was pinned though, so he is down for a turn, barring an initiative check to get back up. So going back to the Traitor Guard, and we will be back. Alright, during the guard turn, the man who was pinned was unable to get up early, but he will be returning to his feet now. Everybody else stepped into the gap and heaved 2. Grenade launchers went scattering wild, missed completely. 1 las gun scored a hit out of everything, but that man did manage to score a knockdown here. Nobody was hurt though in the process. No Necrons were harmed in the making of this turn. So, Necron response coming up. Necrons positioned to put some carnage down and forgot that their guns were not loaded. The Immortals all stood up on the pipes along with this warrior. This man did not get up until the end of my turn. He did return in the recovery phase. This warrior stepped into the open, fired, rolled a 2. These 2 Immortals stepped into the open, fired, rolled 2s. This warrior fired, rolled a 1. Finally, the appointed Immortal decided if you want it done, you got to do it yourself. He fired 1 shot, hit, wounded, and a 6. Took this man out of action, turned him to ash on the wind. One of the guardsmen did break and fall into cover when his friend was splattered. That is the end of the Necron turn. The response from the Cultists is coming up. Guardsmen have finished their response. Commander and 2 of his Joes ran. This man did recover in the recovery phase from his brokenness, so he's going to get back in the fight. 2 grenade launchers fired. Both hit this guy. The first one did 1 wound, but it was only a flesh wound. The second one did him 3 more wounds. 2 of them were flesh wounds, and 1 was a down. So he is still in the fight until he rolls a recovery other than down, and then he will bleed out and be finished off. But he did do his job. He caught all the fire. Necron response coming up. Necron kill team has finished their work, and as the Gauss beams come to a close, there is some significant damage done. Both of the grenade launchers, since they did not run and were easier to hit, were brought down by Gauss fire and put into downed status, as was this guardsman. All 3 Immortals fired here. The 2 warriors scored crack shots, busted both of these guys. But then the Immortals, it took all 3 of them to bring down this runner. So we do still have 1 guardsman and the commander in the fight here, along with their buddy back here who is just now getting his nerve back. So we have a recovery roll here. Let's see what we get. With a 6, I decided to go ahead and end it early and be done. So this man bleeds out and finishes himself off. Guard response coming up next. guard turn rolls to an end. The one las gunner did step out and pin this warrior, but he did no damage. The commander came in here along with one guardsman. Guardsman did charge the immortal alone. The immortal skewered him and moved out of combat. However, the guard commander did go all commando Rambo here on us. He put a flesh wound on this warrior and knocked the team leader down, took no damage in return. Kill team took some damage. The guard did pass their bottle test. The Necrons will now need one as well. With a 4, they will remain in the fight. So we're going to roll down some recovery rolls here for some guardsmen. Starting with the las gunner up front. He's going to go to a 2, so he's going to be down still. First grenade launcher is flesh wounded, so he returns to his feet. And the third man is down still. Alright, so that is the end of the guard turn. Necron response. Coming up. Necron turn has rolled to an end. We did charge in and kill off this guardsman here, and then consolidate over into the one who had suffered a flesh wound in melee with this warrior. Both immortals charged in here. 3-on-1 combat. Nothing happened. We did take one wound with the immortal, or the warrior who was able to survive it. This immortal went down, and this guy with three combat modifiers was only able to flesh wound the commander. So cruddy bit of melee there. But that is the end of the Necron turn. We're going to roll to get this guy back up with a 3. He will stand back up with a flesh wound. And this guy, the leader, with a 1 will stand back up with a flesh wound. So that is the end of the Necrons. The Imperial Guard turn coming up. Alright, the Tzeentchian Cultists have finished up their turn. The commander did finally give up the ghost, was cut down. It did take all 3 of the models to bring him down, but he was finally ended. The las gunner and the grenade launcher were tied up here. The Necron warrior took 2 more flesh wounds, but did manage to hold the ground. So we do have 1 recovery roll for this guy. With a 2, he will remain face down, awaiting his fate. So that is the end of the Tzeentchian Cultists. We will be back once the Necrons have taken their turn. With the end of the Necron turn, the Necrons will emerge bloodied but victorious. The last of the guardsmen were charged up here by these 4 models, and the last 2 guys were cut down. This immortal was able to step clear and bayonet the last guardsman. So with that, the Tzeentchian Cultists are cleansed from the ruins, and the Necrons stand triumphant. We will have kill team lists and post-action thoughts at the blog as always. Give us a like on Facebook and a subscription on YouTube if you like what you're seeing. And as always, guys, we appreciate the time you spent with us here today at the Maelstrom.